I be like, sheesh, sunset on the beach. Make me wanna pull up on Miami with the heat. I don't know about you.
All right, welcome back to the Anytime Sports Podcast Show. You're back with Colin. The NFL season is winding down, and we are back, and we are ready to preview this past week of conference championship games. Colin, do you want to lead us off?
Well, yeah, I think we could start off with the AFC champ. Well, no, let's start off with the NFC championship game because that one was a little bit of more of a blowout, and we can go more in depth on the Bills and Chiefs in a little bit. But the Eagles, I'm sorry, my computer's running slow.
The Eagles won 55-23. They put up 21 points in the fourth quarter. The Commanders put up 8 in the third, and then this game was basically over by the time that it was halftime because the Eagles scored 14 in the first quarter, 13 in the second quarter, and it was like the Commanders only scored 15 in the first half compared to the Eagles almost 30.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was like 28 something, but yeah, you're going to have to put up more points than that, obviously, to win, especially against the Eagles team where Saquon is so good this season. Because Saquon rushed 15 carries, 118 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The long of 60 is the very first play of the game. He went straight into the end zone. This is going to be a trend in the Super Bowl. They're going to feed Saquon. The Chiefs are going to have to stop Saquon if they're going to want to win the Super Bowl and get that three-peat. Colin, you have any touch on this game?
Jalen Hurts, had a pretty good game. He went 20 of 28 for 246 yards and touchdown. He did pretty good, but it really was the Saquon Barkley show, him getting 3 touchdowns. Would have thought he would have got over 200 yards, but he did get banged up a little bit in this game. Hopefully he's healthy come Super Bowl time. I don't think it'll stop him from being on the field, just might limit his effectiveness on the field. I think it's time to say Saquon Barkley is probably in the category of one of the best running backs in the NFL of all time.
Yeah.
I don't think you could put him up there with Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, and those guys, but I think he's just one notch below. I mean,
yeah,
he's got some of the elusiveness like Sweetness had. He's not as fast, but he's definitely really fast. He's got little shiftiness like LT, so I think he's a very good running back. And at the end of his career, if he does win a Super Bowl, we'll be saying this is a Hall of Fame resume right here.
Yeah,
we'll see the Super Bowl if the Eagles end up winning. It'll be a very interesting game. But going to the Commanders side of the ball, it just didn't feel like they had enough. They weren't as good. They didn't have definitely the personnel that the Eagles had. Their Eagles defense was just amazing, and Jaden Daniels at every point tried to extend plays and move the Commanders downfield, but they were not able to. And really in the third and fourth showed not being able to put up any points, and Saquon Barkley took away this game.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's not ignore the fact Saquon Barkley is only 27 years old. That's old on the older side for running backs, but with a guy like him, who's not a power back, who they're not sending down the middle like Henry every single play is getting beat up. He's elusive. He can dodge these tackles. Saquon's probably got a good 5 years left in him. And for the numbers that he's putting up this year, don't be surprised if he puts up better numbers in the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, especially with that offensive line being so good as it is. Saquon Barkley's not getting touched for the first 3 yards, and really he needs about 3 yards of breakaway, and then he's gone, or he can make something happen. So that's a luxury that not many running backs can have, is having a really good offensive line like them. Eagles, they've always had a really good offensive line. Of course, it is banged up a little bit, but hopefully come Super Bowl time, they're a little bit more healthier than they were in this NFC Championship game. But still in this NFC Championship game, they did make an impact. Saquon Barkley, only 15 carries and 118 yards. Think if he got 20 to 25 carries, you'd double his total right there. Jaden Daniels is going to be a problem for years to come in the NFC specifically. I think he will, going into next season, he is the best quarterback in the NFC.
I could see that.
He is the best quarterback in the NFC. That's no ifs, ands, or about talent. Talent-wise, he's the best. I think you'd have to put Matthew Stafford in that conversation of the best in the NFC right now. Jordan Love's up there, but he's not.
Yeah,
He's not. He's not at that level.
yeah,
Um, but
Jer- yeah. I would say,
Jaden Daniels is the best, and I think it puts a lot of pressure on all the other quarterbacks, especially the Chicago Bears,
mm-hmm.
for drafting Caleb Williams. It puts a lot of pressure on Ben Johnson to get this Bears team right and to get them winning because they Jaden Daniels already made it to the NFC Championship. I'm sorry, Caleb. You get no time to. This is what the league is. You get no time to
Yeah,
accommodate. It's winner now. It's so that I don't like. It always seems to push people to the brink, especially when somebody who was drafted. Scooby.
yeah. Like Colin was saying, it's the expectation now for rookies is like through the roof because you're gonna have a guy like C.J. Stroud last year who performed. Like you have a guy like C.J. Stroud last year who performed really good, and then you have a guy like Jaden Daniels that's performing really good this year. And it's tough, especially for young guys like, and even Bo Nix performed really good. It's tough when you have guys like Caleb Williams who have to struggle with these good coaching things, and then as soon as they don't perform, people are like, "Oh, you're a bust. He's a bust. He's not going to do good." And then obviously the second year will roll around, and we'll see what that quarterback's made of. But it's the narrative now, and it's really the narrative that rookies have to perform really good in their first year. Like I was saying with Jaden Daniels, in this game he was 29 for 48, 255 yards, a touchdown, but he did throw a pick. They were turning over balls like crazy in this game. They turned over all three fumbles they lost. They fumbled 3 times. Austin Eckler, Jeremy McNichols, and Dammy Brown. And they lost them every single time. So you need to be able to recover those fumbles. And you need to be able to capitalize on defense. I was just mentioning how the standard for rookies now is like through the roof because of what C.J. Stroud did. Now you have Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. And it's not really fair for guys like Caleb Williams or Drake May in their first year who don't have the best first year because they could have a great future. Tom Brady and Peyton Manning didn't have great first years. But look what they turned out to be.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it is. I think it really started when Justin Herbert had his really good season his rookie year, and he did amazing in his rookie year. So I think it really started then, but it gives no credit, no room for wiggling or growth or anything. Well, you see that with Sam Darnold and what he's been able to do with Minnesota this past season. It took him some time to actually get going. Same thing with Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay. So it takes some time for these guys to go, and it might not be their first stop, but they always get a second chance, and that's the best thing. They'll get a second chance because they were a higher draft pick.
Yeah.
But Washington needs to get back to the drawing board. They got a lot of money this offseason, especially. They'll probably be very proactive in signing free agents. They'll probably be one of the hottest teams to sign a lot of people because I could definitely see them competing next year at a very high level.
Yeah, and I was going to say another thing that killed him in this game was turnovers. 4 turnovers, 3 fumbles, which he lost all 3 of them. Jaden Daniels threw a pick. So turnovers really weren't their friend in this game. The Eagles, on the other hand, had no turnovers. And that's how you win a game. Having turnovers and having 7 touchdowns. Yeah, but like you were saying, the Commanders are going to be a competitor next year, especially in the division with the Eagles. The Dallas Cowboys probably aren't going to do anything next year. The Giants aren't going to. So we're really going to see this Washington-Philly rivalry building up over the next couple of years. And yeah.
Yeah, it should be interesting, especially in this division. Let's move to the AFC Championship game. You had the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Buffalo Bills for, it seems like, a lot,
Yeah.
a lot of times in the playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of.
What were your thoughts on the game?
A lot of fans were upset about this game. I know I was upset because it's very frustrating to watch. As a lot of people don't like to see the same team go to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, let alone 3 years in a row. Chiefs 15-2 this year. The only team that beat them in the regular season was the team they just beat now. Yeah, the Chiefs aren't going to slow down anytime soon. As long as Mahomes is there, as long as Andy Reid is there, they're going to make it work. They're going to get to the playoffs regardless every year. It's crazy, but Bills, obviously, every year they just can't get past them. They couldn't get anything going. The final play of this game, Josh Allen lobbed the ball up. Dalton Kincaid missed that catch. You need to catch that ball, but at the same time, there's a lot more this team could have done to stay in the game. This is a very close game, very solid game. Passing wise by the Bills, Chiefs had a better passing game. Josh Allen was 22 for 34, 237, and 2 touchdowns. Matt Collins was leading receiver, 73 yards. James Cook, 13 carries, 85 yards, long of 33, 2 touchdowns. As for the Chiefs, Mahomes balled out per usual, 18 for 26, 245, and a touchdown. Kareem Hunt, leading rusher, 64 and a touchdown. And Xavier Worthy we'll dive into that catch a little bit later if you watch that game. A very controversial catch. But Colin, first thoughts. What are your first thoughts on this game?
You cannot blame the refs.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to blame the refs for everything, especially if it's Kansas City. The refs are always in scrutiny. It was not the refs. Buffalo fumbled 5 times in the game, but recovered all 5. I mean, it's ridiculous that you put the ball on the ground that much.
Yeah.
Choosing Xavier Worthy and choosing to develop Xavier Worthy from Kansas City side proved dividends, especially in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you remember, the Buffalo Bills traded back and allowed Kansas City to jump up and grab Xavier Worthy. Buffalo got Keon Coleman. Look who was a factor in this one, Xavier Worthy. Yeah. Now, if Xavier Worthy was on the Bills, I don't think he would have been the same guy. Worthy's turned into more than just a gadget guy in Kansas City. I think you have to give all the credit to Andy Reid there. He's really turned him into a great player. Buffalo just comes short. And that 4th and 5, great call by Steve Spagnuolo, defensive call to get a guy rushing at Josh Allen with nobody blocking him.
Yeah.
Great call. It was an amazing call. But I think the Bills were not prepared for that situation. I think they weren't as prepared as Andy Reid's team was prepared.
Yeah.
They always probably practice those situations. It seems like when they're in a situation offensively for the Buffalo Bills, they rely on Josh Allen way too much.
Yeah.
And I've heard this said before, like Andy Reid doesn't put it all on Mahomes' plate. They practice different things. Well, Buffalo just seems to rely heavily on the talent that Josh Allen has, which is great. But when you're in these situations, AFC Championship game on the line, you need to have a couple play calls that they could call, and they didn't execute. They haven't executed in years.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, I was going to say, Josh Allen really can only do so much, and we saw during this year he did a lot. He did everything from catching the ball, his own pass, obviously, scoring a touchdown, rushing touchdowns, passing touchdowns. This guy can do everything, but he can only do so much, especially in a crucial situation. The Bills need to get – I feel like they need more weapons on offense. You have Amari Cooper, but losing Stephon Diggs was huge, and Gabe Davis. They have a young team. Don't get me wrong. Keon Coleman is going to be really good for years to come. Khalil Shakir is going to be really good for years to come. Amari Cooper was just a rental guy. And Dalton Kincaid is going to be really good for years to come. So they have those pieces. Same with James Cook. They have those pieces. I think what they're missing is just that guy. Like, obviously the Chiefs don't have that guy, but they're always able to make it work. Kind of like when they had, they do have Travis Kelce, but I feel like they need that guy on the team.
They have a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
They just are not coached as well as Andy Reid coaches their guys. And especially Andy Reid's an offensive guy. He knows the offense well, so he can kind of scheme around certain players having disadvantages than others. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Bills head coach, defensive-minded guy. He doesn't know much of the offensive. He puts too much on Josh Allen's plate. I think it's going to be very hard to justify hiring a new coach for Buffalo, but I think that might be the way to go is hire a offensive minded guy. It's not going to be this cycle. It probably won't be the next cycle, but if this keeps going,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. It might be a logical statement to say Josh Allen will not win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, because as long as Patrick Mahomes is in the league, I don't think he's going to be able to beat him in the playoffs.
I'm not talking about Patrick Mahomes. You can mention him, but you have Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud,
Yeah.
Bo Nix,
Justin Herbert.
Justin
Yep.
Herbert, Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
All those guys in the division, in the AFC conference, some of those guys are not going to win, and that's not to mention in the distant future there will be more quarterbacks drafted.
Yeah.
So I'll let you take it over and you give your thoughts on that. I got to let my dog out, but you
Yeah.
give your thoughts on, do you think there's a possibility that Josh Allen could not win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, especially, and I'll back off of what quarterbacks he kind of listed. You got a guy like Trevor Lawrence who's played iffy so far, but he's got potential. And if they're coached right, then he could be another one of those top guys. And then you got Tua Tagovailoa. They're always the Dolphins are iffy, but they're another team that can compete. You got Aaron Rodgers. You got all these top quarterbacks and top teams in the AFC. And if you keep winning, it's going to be tough to keep up. And then especially you got Drake May cooking up now. And yeah, like I said, Tua, and you got all these guys, and especially in Vegas, maybe if they draft Shador, then you got a lot of these young guys and a lot of these talented guys you're going to have to go against. And Josh Allen's only getting older. He's still not too old yet. He's, let me check his age. He's only 28 years old, so yeah, he's got about 10 years left in the league for a quarterback. And we could see that, but obviously as you age, things will progress. But like you were saying earlier, maybe McDermott's job is on the line in a couple of years if they can't get it done. You can win all the games you want in the regular season, but if you can't get it done in the playoffs, then you might be time to go. As we saw that with Lovie Smith with the Bears.
I mean, we've seen that story come up 3 or 4 times when we talk about the Steelers and Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
He's a great coach, but it might be time to move on. You see that time and time again with a couple coaches that he came out this year with John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
He might be better in a change of scenery, like Andy Reid did. He changed the scenery from Philadelphia, couldn't win in Philadelphia, went to Kansas City. Now look where he is. He's done well in Kansas City. So it should be interesting to see. We'll kind of dig deeper into the Bills' problems maybe this offseason. But let's preview the Super Bowl, shall we?
Yeah, Super Bowl takes place in 2 weeks. Week from this Sunday. It's gonna be in New Orleans, 5:30 Central Time. And we got Chiefs taking on the Eagles. The Eagles are favored in this one, probably because they came off hotter in their last game and because of total points scored in the season and whatnot. But they're favored 56-43 in this one. It's going to be a very interesting game. We saw them 2 years ago, and arguably people are like, oh, we're seeing the same teams, this and that. But these teams really aren't the same as they were 2 years ago. The Eagles 2 years ago were ran off of Miles Sanders. They still had A.J. Brown. They still had Devontae Smith. Things changed on this team. They got a whole new weapon in Saquon. 2 years ago, the Chiefs had a whole different team. This year, they got Pacheco. They got, a couple years ago, they had Pacheco, but then they have Worthy now. And then you have all these guys, and Kareem Hunt is your leading rusher this season. These teams are different than 2 years ago, so I think this should be a good game. And I think it could be back and forth. But we'll have to see what goes down because it could be interesting. And a lot of people are skeptical on it. Colin, what are your thoughts?
On this game, the rosters coming in, I think Philadelphia has a more talented roster. But when push comes to shove, when you look at the quarterback coach combo, which is the most important thing to have on a team, Kansas City wins in both those categories. Andy Reid's a better coach. Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback. Jalen Hurts will have the advantage of being the first quarterback in 10 years on the NFC side of the ball to being a quarterback for 2 years, for 2 times appearances
Yeah.
in the Super Bowl. So he knows what it's like to play in a Super Bowl. It'll be key to try to get Saquon going and run the ball, chew the clock. The less time Mahomes has the ball, the more of a better chance you have to win. Of course, a couple years ago, it was very close. This game came down to it. It was a very close game. But Philadelphia, if they want to win, they need to keep Mahomes off the field. You need to do that.
Yeah.
You need to get creative with your offense side of the ball. You need to hold on to the ball for most of the game, drive down slowly, and score touchdowns. That's what you need to do. You can't score field goals in this one. I'm sorry. If it's the first drive and you're in the red zone and it's a 4th and 3, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
I'm going for it. I'm not going to kick a field goal. They're not going to win you the game against Patrick Mahomes. They're just not going to. But on the other side of the ball, if I look at it, the Chiefs, we've seen the same situation happen a couple years in a row. They're not like the favored team,
Yeah.
but they're very good. They're a very well coached football team with some very good young stars on this team. Craig McDuffie, I can't pronounce his last
Karlaftis?
name, but yeah, it's the guy out of Purdue
Yeah.
they got a couple years ago. They've got some studs, and their cornerbacks hit like linebackers. Let me tell you, they fly around the field. So, and Steve Spagnuolo has definitely got this defense really playing really well. So it should be interesting to see what Patrick Mahomes has in the Super Bowl. Definitely Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes probably have a couple plays they were saving for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So we'll see. You'll see something that you probably wouldn't see any other game against Philadelphia here.
Yeah, I would say this, like you were saying, you need to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. I think Philly has a great defense. They have Jalen Carter, Reed Blankenship, Cooper DeJean, great rookie, will probably win Defensive Rookie of the Year. And you got these young guys on their defense, and if you can keep up with Mahomes and keep up with that offense, force 4th down turnovers early in the game, maybe get some turnovers like fumbles or interceptions. If you could do that and give your offense the ball, keep the ball in Saquon's hands, drain down that clock, and score, then you can win this game. That's what it's going to come down to, though. Yeah, it'll be interesting, to say the least. We got Kendrick Lamar as a halftime show, so that should be interesting. Yeah, but it'll be cool because we were one game away from having a Commanders-Bills Super Bowl. That would have been interesting, but I don't think the Commanders had any chance to beat the Eagles last week. But yeah.
I think this game is very different if Buffalo ends up making the Super Bowl. I think Eagles, I would definitely pick the Eagles to win because I don't think Buffalo matches up well with the Eagles. But it's different that Kansas City's in this situation.
Yeah.
Kansas City's a way different team than Buffalo is. And I think they match up well and they play well against the Eagles.
Yeah, I think let's pick our predictions for this game. It is still about a week and a half out, so we got a little bit before this game starts. But I could see it going both ways. And when I pick my game, I have an explainer for why it would go both ways. But do you want to pick first?
Kansas City, 41-38.
Okay. Think they're going to get the
game
3
2 years ago was 38-35.
Yeah. Close. We could see, we're very close to seeing a 3-peat. It's never been done in football before. Very hard to do in football. Not even Tom Brady did it. But Tom Brady has the rings. I think, if I had to pick the game, I think it's going to be Eagles over Chiefs. But like you were saying, it's going to be close. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Both teams' defenses are iffy. Both teams are offensively powered teams. I think it's going to be Eagles over Chiefs. I think it's going to be something around 28-22, or it's going to be something around, I think it'll be a little higher score. I think like 42-38, something like that, like you were saying for the Chiefs. I think it'll be the Eagles, but I think this game will be back and forth. We could see the Chiefs leading by potentially 2 touchdowns going into halftime. But this game will be. I think this game will be built in the second half. We're gonna see maybe team go up pretty dominant going into halftime, and then we could see another team come out firing the second half. But we could jump in a quick bit of NFL news now if you feel like we covered enough on the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't know what NFL news was this week because
Yeah, there were very limited things. There was a little buzz around Matthew Stafford this week. Him saying, "Oh, I'm going to think about retirement. Oh, actually, I want to stay back and go for another year." But he's determined to come back, but it's still to be determined, and it's still up in the air. So I think he's got another year. He is getting older. He's got the ring. He's got the time in Detroit. He's got the time in LA. It just depends if he thinks they can get it done. They made the playoffs this year.
that's the one thing that worries me about the Rams is like they're reloading their roster and their roster looks really good. I just don't think Matthew Stafford's got 2 to 3 good more years in him.
Yeah.
I think he's got one more good year. If I'm going to be honest, he's got one more good year. After that, I think he's done. So I think you need to really focus on next season, get the best you can out of next season to try to reload and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think he has many years left, especially like the Jets situation. You got Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to be there for much longer. They built all these guys, but you don't have a backup. You don't have a good quarterback in case he does leave because you have Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett on that roster. They're not going to start. They're not going to be your longtime starters. And Matthew Stafford, they built this team around him. So we're going to have to see where that goes. And it isn't necessarily news, but the other piece of information is the Saints are still looking for a head coach. They're the last team out there looking for a head coach. There is a couple options left, but who do you think it's going to be?
I have no idea. I mean, who wants to take over that situation? That's like one of the worst ones. They got the worst cap hit right now. Their salary cap's terrible.
Yeah.
It's going to be some no-name guy that we don't know exactly like Dennis Allen was.
Yeah. It's probably one of the worst situations to go into in the bit of recent memory, last 10 years at least. Because you don't have cap space to build a team around. You have Derek Carr.
You don't have a quarterback.
Yeah, you don't have a quarterback. You have Chris Olave. You have Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is getting older. Chris Olave is probably your most talented player on the entire team. You have an aging Cam Jordan. You have an aging Chase Young. You have an aging Tyrann Mathieu. You have an old defense that probably can't get it done. You have an old stadium. You have Derek Carr's probably got a couple of years left in him, if that. You're going to have to draft a quarterback. Spencer Rattler's not the guy, or unless you get a guy like Kirk Cousins to go there. But it's such a tough situation to be in. It'll be interesting. I think I could personally, obviously Mike McCarthy didn't get a job. I don't think he's going to get a job. I don't think he's going to want to take the New Orleans job. I think he's going to pull a Mike Vrabel and possibly sit out a year, then get a job next year, or he won't get a job at all and he's done. But
he's done that before, sit out a year, and then he signed with the Cowboys after that. Mike McCarthy will probably be the best hire for them, but I don't know if they can convince Mike McCarthy to come in and run the team. So who knows? We'll see, and when they come out, we'll make a video on it.
Yeah, there's one more candidate that I've been seeing thrown around is Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was with the Eagles for the past couple of years, and they really can't hire him until after the Super Bowl. So you have a week and a half before you can even finish off the interview process with him, which is the tricky thing. But we could see him going there as well. It's going to be, like you said, a no-name guy. And they're probably going to be stuck in the hole in one of the bottom teams in the league for the next couple of years. Other than that, there's really not much more information. The Senior Bowl is happening, so we'll see. We'll start some of that draft talk and draft information after the Super Bowl finishes up. Cowboys hire ex-Bears head coach Matt Eberflus as defensive coordinator. I think that's a good move. Eberflus is a great defensive guy. When he was with the Colts, he was a great defensive guy. When he was with the Bears, he had a great defense, just not a great play caller. And like Dennis Allen, not a great head coach, but you're a great defensive coordinator. And some guys aren't.
I think he's a good defensive coordinator. Giving him great, I think, is giving him too much credit. Yeah, because I think he's a decent defensive coordinator. I don't think he's amazing, because the only amazing defensive coordinator is Vic Fangio.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, and then another team that we could possibly talk about with some off-season things is the Steelers. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields Justin Fields and Russell Wilson are both free agents after this year. The Steelers are saying they're going to stick with one of those guys. They don't know who yet. Do they want to stick with Russell Wilson and possibly have a more experienced guy to make a run next year? Or do they want to build their future around Justin Fields?
I don't think they go with either. Both are terrible options. If I'm going to be honest, both are not the greatest option, and I don't think they go with either. I think they've been very cryptic on who they're not committing to anyone because they don't want to, because they know both these guys aren't going to do it. They got a terrible offensive line as well. They got a really bad offense, to be honest.
Yeah.
They didn't re-sign Najee Harris, so and they need to sign Jeff Warren back, but who knows? Who knows what's going to go on? But that situation's a whole kerfuffle to kind of deal with right now, but I don't think either of them.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those teams around the league right now that have all that up in the air. Really, that's the last piece of big information that I can see. Max Crosby says Pete Carroll is just excited he's excited to see what is going to come soon with Pete Carroll. That'll be an interesting situation too, especially with the team that they have there and not a lot of talent.
It's a lot better because they got cap space and they got money too, so they'll be fine. I think that's rebuilding a team and then handing it off to somebody in the future.
Yeah, unlike the Saints situation there. Like we said, the Pro Bowl is this weekend. Drake May and Baker Mayfield are added to the Pro Bowl games after some players backed out and some players passed out or didn't want to participate in the Pro Bowl and whatnot. And then Zach Ertz says he's not retiring in hopes of returning with the Commanders next year. He's a little on the older side too, which will be interesting. And I believe that is it. Yeah, and then Dalton Kincaid said on that fourth down miss versus the Chiefs, that sucks a lot, but you got to catch that ball no matter how underthrown it is. You're an NFL tight end, but it still was a tough throw and tough grab. Tough way to end the season, tough way to end that. And we will, in the next couple weeks for ASP, we will get some guests on. We will get you guys some draft content. We will give our draft predictions. We will run some mock drafts. We have a bunch of off-season content coming. Content now for this next week is going to be a little dry. Obviously, this is just Super Bowl hype time and build up there. We don't know if we'll have a podcast out next week, but after that, we will start off-season content. Maybe we can touch on some baseball in the spring. Maybe Colin can run some NASCAR once races are out, and then we can talk about some other sports and get some guests on for potential outlooks on next season. I think this has been a good episode of the Anytime Sports podcast show, and we will see you guys soon.
See ya.
Never over.